Hi, and welcome back. This week we are going to go ahead and get some stuff ready for our family reunion this year. We have Grandpa Rebel's side of the family is having a reunion, and I am making some gift baskets, and I'm going to go ahead and make some German potato salad for the potluck. This is a yearly event. We have barbecue. We celebrate the new additions to the family, as well as mourn the people who have passed this past year. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so what I've gone ahead and done is I've got a whole bunch of stuff here. We're going to go ahead and make soap baskets of my homemade soap. This is part of my ugly soap collection. I've gone ahead and got some soap holders, sponges, baskets, ribbons, you name it. So we're going to go ahead and start putting things together. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take off all the tags. Because it's pretty rude to give away a gift with tags on it. Now, these baskets are for our yearly auction. Every year we hold an auction. We bring homemade gifts, or they're supposed to be homemade, to be able to auction off to the family. That way there's enough money for next year's family reunion and other things. Okay, we're also going to go ahead and do what we can about getting off all of these labels. As best as we can. If we need to get the goo gone and get off all the sticky, we'll go ahead and do that. See, that one was perfect. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this one into the black basket. Okay, that one can go in there, and that one can go in there. I'm also going to label each one of these. I got these at the dollar store. They will house each scent of the liquid soap that we made. And I'll try to do this in as fast as I can, because there we go. Okay, let's go ahead and put in the tissue. I have selected a very generic type of paper tissue. Nothing wrong with that. I'm going to go ahead and line the bottom of these baskets with this. And I'm going to have a lot more left over for other gifts and baskets. Okay, and now that we have these aligned, we can go ahead and add. Now, I thought these were absolutely adorable. These are sponges. The little stick on them, the little foam sponges. I like these. So we're going to go ahead and put these in the back of each basket. And then I'm going to do matching, or as best as matching possible. I have the soap holder along with one of my ugly soaps. These are all honeysuckle scent. Oh, missed one. Let's get this off. There we go. And one of my soaps I made last year. Now we're going to go ahead and fill these up with the soap that we just made. One of them is going to be orange mint. One of them is going to be tea tree. I did put the lavender eucalyptus in one. And since I'm using that for my bubble bath, but it can still be used as a regular hand soap. So I'm going to put this one in there. Actually, I want it in the blue. Okay, and let's go ahead and fill up the rest of these. Laundry is going to be very interesting. Let's go rinse this off. Okay, now that they're rinsed off, we're going to go ahead and wipe that down, let it air dry for a minute, and then we're going to put a label on this. That way people know what scent is in there whenever they do their auctions. And I'm going to do this again because put this down here because I'm pretty sure I'm going to do the same thing with the orange mint. Now, if you don't want to cross-contaminate, okay, if you don't want to cross-contaminate your scents, go ahead and wash out your utensils. That way the tea tree and the orange mint don't cross over. There's a little bit of soap on the outside of this jar, so I'm wrapping it in paper towel so it doesn't slip. Look at all that nice soap. And do this one a little bit slower. Ah, there we go. Okay, make sure you try to get your labels off. As much as possible. I know with some of these labels, they don't come off too easily. Sometimes getting them a little bit wet will help, especially if you have soap on your hands. All right, got as much of the sticky off as possible. Now, we want to go ahead and make sure we put what this is on the jar, okay? So I know that the lighting is not the best right now. Let's go ahead and move this. That's a little bit better. Okay, so this is the orange peppermint. My fancy smanchy labels here. I must invest in labels. There we go. We have tea tree soap. That goes in a basket. And then the orange peppermint. It's more peppermint than orange. The orange seemed to have faded while the soap was sitting for a while. So that's a thing. Now, what we're going to go ahead and do with the ribbons is we're going to take the ones for each basket. I'm going to do red on this one. I'm going to do red on this one, purple on this one, and blue on this one. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start at the beginning here and kind of weave this back and forth about every inch or so and kind of thread it through the top, making sure that it doesn't twist on me. Like it's trying to do now. I'll let it twist and straighten it up after I'm done. Seems to be easier that way. So it's about every third hole. Don't cut this end off yet. You may need to thread it out a little bit more. There we go. Okay, and you want to leave a little bit of a gap. A little bit more thread, and then you want to cut your length. Try to get it as even as possible, and then we're just going to make a really pretty bow. Here we go. Little gift basket. And just a little pretty bow. You want to make a knot first so it doesn't come undone. And then bow it. There we go. Oh, pretty. Simple. Just simple. That's all you need. And let me go ahead and finish the other two off camera. And I'll go ahead and show you what these gift baskets are. Okay, and there we have our little gift baskets. Purple. Now, whenever I bought this ribbon, I did not realize that it had a sticky back to it. So I'm hoping it's going to survive the heat, because in June in Texas, it's not the hottest ever, but it's pretty close. And then we have our red and pink. Okay, now what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to show you the soap bar that we made with half of this formula to let you know how that is going and to see if it is ready to cut. Okay, so here it is about 2 days later. It's still a little soft at the bottom, but it feels like it's going to be firm enough to be able to get it out of the casing. I'm going to go ahead and flip this over, get it out of here so it can actually dry underneath, because we want this whole thing to be as dry as possible but not jelly to be able to cut it. So let's go ahead and remove this as gently as we can and try to remove the casing. Now this does come out fairly easily, and we have just a little bit of cleanup, but it's staying in one solid block. So I think with that, adding that glycerin made it very, very gel. So we're going to go ahead and let this dry for another 24 to 48 hours before we cut into it and to make soap bars. Okay, so now it's 2 days after the last time I filmed. Okay, this is a little bit more solid. It's still gel inside. You can tell whenever you squeeze it a little bit, there's still that give. So it's good to cut now. So we're gonna go ahead and cut. You're gonna come with me. This is the first time. Now every time I cut into one of these, I find something different. There could be complete gel inside of it and it'll just ooze out, or it'll be gel enough to where I can actually let this dry and we actually have bars. Now, the measurement on this, it's personal preference. I like to measure 2 inches because this is still going to shrink after I cut this, because we are air dehydrating this soap. You don't want to put soap in a regular normal dehydrator because it will actually cook the soap even further and make it a little bit more unusable. So we're going to go ahead and cut 2 inches. Now, just to let you know, okay, measure your knuckles. From the tip to my first knuckle is 1 inch. From here to the second knuckle is 1 inch. From here to the third knuckle is 1 inch. Measure your finger. You actually may be surprised that most people on this planet have 1 inch knuckles on their index fingers. Go ahead and give that a try. So let's go ahead and slice into this. I'm kind of excited. The big reveal, right? Let's go ahead and look at that. Still a little bit of gel-like here, but whenever this completely dries, it will be this nice white, yellowish white all the way around. And this will shrink a little bit more. Okay, so in total it'll be about an 1.5 inches across total after it's done curing. Now, there is a reason why I use cardboard boxes. Number one, I don't have an actual drying rack. Okay, for soaps. You can buy them or make them, but since I don't do this about once or twice a year, I use cardboard boxes. The cardboard boxes actually help with absorbing the moisture and wick it away from the soap. So it dries faster. Now, this will probably sit for about another 6 weeks. I'll keep an eye on it. You also want to rotate these about every few days or so. That way they dry evenly. Now, I like the waffle cutter. I do have a straight cutter, but I don't use this as often because I like the looks of this better. But they both have their uses. Okay, and that will sit for another 6 to 8 weeks. And this will completely dry. Alright, now that we have everything ready for the auction, let's go ahead and make the German potato salad. This is actually very, very simple. It's potatoes with vinegar, bacon, and more bacon. You can add other things like onions and garlic to this. It's up to your preference, but we're going to just make a basic German salad. Or German potato salad, sorry. Now, what you want to do first is, I do this. Go get yourself a big package of bacon ends. Now, with bacon ends, what you can do, number one, it's cheaper. And number two, you can render the entire package, fry it all up, save the bacon grease because, you know, bacon. And you're going to chop this up and use it in your recipes. We're not going to use all of this. Some of this is actually going to go into other recipes and my stomach. So we're going to go ahead and chop this up. Save some of the bacon grease because you're going to want to use it for this recipe. And then you're going to save the rest of it for later and put it in a jar. That's how much bacon grease. This is about a pint of bacon grease that came out of this entire package of bacon ends. So we're going to save that. Now, what we want to go ahead and do is we're going to take an entire 5-pound bag of potatoes, because there's going to be a lot of people at the reunion. We're going to go ahead and skin that, take the skins off, wash them, and then slice them into slices about ½ an inch thick. And I'll go ahead and show you whenever I'm done with that, because not a lot of people like to see somebody just peel potatoes. Some of them you do, some of you don't. I'm going to go with the majority and say, let's go ahead and do this off of camera. About that thick. And some of these you may want to cut in half, because that's going to not fit well on a fork. You can cube these if you want. I don't like cubes. I like the half circles. It's personal preference. Okay, now that we have all these cut, we're going to go ahead and rinse it off and put it in a pot. You're going to want to cover that up in the pot, and you're going to want to bring it up to a boil and cook until it is fork tender but not falling apart. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and let this come up to a boil and let it cook. Okay, so now that we have the potatoes cooking, we're going to go ahead and cut this up into portions. And there's a little bit of grease left on the bottom. We're going to use this to make to fry the onions in this, okay? So we're going to go ahead and make bits. You want to cut these bigger bits up, because whenever you get bacon ends, there'll be some lengthy pieces. And what we want to do is we just want to chop these up into a rough chop. This would be something that you can do with prep. You can do this once, put it all in a Ziploc bag, throw it in the freezer. That way you have it on the ready whenever you're doing another recipe. This piece doesn't want to come apart. We are going to make it come apart. Come on, baby. There we go. And you're going to make a mess. One thing about making a mess is that you know a person uses their kitchen if it's a messy kitchen. And you know that they can cook. Okay, so whenever the potatoes are done and they're fork tender but not falling apart, go ahead and drain them, and then you want to rinse them with cold water. You want to stop the cooking process in them so they don't fall apart any further and become mush. Because German potato salad is supposed to be more meaty than regular mashed potatoes. And this is what I mean by fork tender, but not falling apart whenever you touch it. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and make the sauce for this while the potatoes are cooling. You're going to want to add your bacon grease. You want to do this on medium. You don't want to do this too quickly. Maybe a little bit more. We're doing a triple batch here. There we go. Okay, and then to this, we're going to add 3 chopped up onions. I already have some in the freezer. It's always good to have pre-cut up vegetables for your recipes. That way you're not spending so much time every time preparing. You can add peppers to this too if you want. There's really no rule. Like I said, this is just basic. This is the no frills German potato salad. And we're going to go ahead and cook that down. One thing about frozen though is that there's going to be a lot of moisture in this. We can use this moisture in this recipe to our advantage because for every batch it's going to ask for 2 tablespoons of water. This way we don't have to add so much water to this because the water has already been frozen out of the onions and is in the bottom of this pan. So that's about as much water as we're going to need for this recipe. So we can just add that. Okay, and to this recipe we are going to add 3/4 of a cup of white vinegar. We already have the water in here from the onions. Now it's asking for 3 tablespoons of sugar. I'm going to half that. And only do 6 tablespoons because that's still a lot of sugar. No, 4.5. It'll still be sweet, but won't add so much sugar to this. Then it's asking for 1 tablespoon per batch of salt. So that's 3 tablespoons of salt. Like I said, this is a triple batch. One-eighth teaspoon of pepper. So I only have a 1/4 teaspoon, so about, need a pepper, about 1 1/2 of these. And then you want to let this boil for a little bit. Make sure there's no onion skins. You do want to taste this for sweetness, as is. Okay, I'm going to add the rest of the sugar. It really needs it. So for this recipe, it's 9 tablespoons of sugar. Apparently, with this recipe, you can't substitute. I guess you can, depending on your taste. But we really, for this, we're probably going to need the full carb load. So much better. Okay, so that's good. Let's go ahead and let that boil and cook for a little bit. Now that this is cooked for a little bit, it's still going to be liquidy. That's something that will always be. If you want to thicken this up, you can use a little bit of that potato starch that we did to make it a little bit thicker. But the potatoes, once everything is warmed up, will soak up this water. So what you want to do now is add your bacon to your taste. The recipe calls for 4 slices, which 12 slices is still not enough bacon. So put enough bacon in there for your taste. Keep everything nice and warm. And the bacon will actually absorb some of this liquid. And we're also going to add some dried parsley. Okay, about 3 tablespoons. Okay, and let that sit for a little bit, keeping nice and warm. Now, since this is going to be for tomorrow, and we're pre-cooking this, we're putting everything together, we're going to use a tin foil. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and put the potatoes in here, and we're going to add this to the potatoes. And then we're going to keep this in the refrigerator. Now, whenever, about an hour before I leave, I'll go ahead and put this in the oven to be able to warm it up about 350-ish. And you want to go ahead and keep an eye on it, and don't want to over bake this. So I would say about at least 30 minutes. Check it on it after 30 minutes, and then every 10 minutes afterwards. You want to serve this warm. Eat lots of potatoes. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and dump this in. We're going to mix it as best as we can. Without making a mess. Of course, we are going to make a mess because I'm grandma. There we go. Okay, now you can eat as is, or you can warm this up. Now for keeping potato salad, I've tried freezing potato salad. Did not work. Did not work well at all. Don't know about canning this. If there is any left over, I will experiment with canning it. If there is not, well, we're going to have to do this again, aren't we? But this is German potato salad. Very nice, very simple. And you can actually add extra parsley on top of it before you serve, just for presentation. Thank you for joining. See you next week.